I used to be blonde, but now my hair is black. I used to be strong, but now I am weak. I used to be pretty, but now I look sick. It is true I suffer migraines since my accident. It is true I do not suffer fools. I'd like a twist of meaning, you see. Suffer migraines. Do not suffer fools. The word means almost the same as it did in the previous sentence, but not quite. Suffer. You could say it means endure, but that's not exactly right. My story starts before the accident. June of the summer I was 15. My father ran off with some woman he loved more than us. Dad was a meddling, successful professor of military history. Back then I adored him. Excuse me again. He was gaunt. He drank milky tea. He was fond of board games and let me win. Fond of boats and taught me to kayak. Fond of bicycles, books, and art museums. He was never fond of dogs, and it was a sign of how much he loved my mother that he let our golden retrievers sleep on the sofas and walk them 3 miles every morning. He was never fond of my grandparents either, and it was a sign of how much he loved both me and Mummy that he spent every summer in Windermere House on Beechwood Island, writing articles on wars fought long ago and putting on a smile for the relatives at every meal. That June, summer 15, Dad announced he was leaving and departed 2 days later. He told my mom he wasn't a Sinclair and couldn't try to be one any longer. He couldn't smile, couldn't lie, couldn't be part of the beautiful family in those beautiful houses. Wouldn't. He had hired moving vans already. He had rented a house too. My father put a last suitcase into the backseat of the Mercedes. He was leaving Mummy with only the Saab and started the engine. Then he pulled out of the handgun and shot me in the chest. I was standing on the lawn and I fell. The bullet opened wide and my meat rolled out in my heart. Rolled out of my rib cage and down into a flower bed. Blood gushed rhythmically from my open wound, then from my eyes, my ears, my mouth. It tasted like salt and failure, bright red shame of being unloved, soaked in the grass of our front house, the bricks of the path, the steps on the porch. My heart smashed amongst the peonies. Ponies, I never know how to say that flower. Like a trout. Mummy snapped. She said to get a hold of myself. Be normal now, she said. Right now, she said. Because you are. Because you can be. Don't cause a scene, she told me. Breathe and sit up. I did what she said, and she was all I had left. Mummy and I tilted our square chins high as Dad drove down the hill. Then we went indoors and trashed the gifts he'd given us. Jewelry, clothes, books, anything. In the days that followed, we got rid of the couch and the armchairs my parents had bought together, tossed the wedding china, the silver, the photographs. We purchased new furniture, hired a decorator, placed an order for Tiffany silverware, spent a day walking through art galleries and bought paintings to cover the empty spaces on our walls. We asked Granddad's lawyers to secure Mummy's assets. Then we packed our bags and went to Beechwood Island. 3. Penny, Carrie, and Bees, and Bess. I cannot speak today. Penny, Carrie, and Bess are the daughters of Tipper and Harris Sinclair. Harris came into money at 21 after Harvard and grew the fortune doing business I never bothered to understand. He inherited houses and land. He made intelligent decisions about the stock market. He married Tipper and kept her in the kitchen and the garden. He put her on display in pearls and on sailboats. She seemed to enjoy it. Granddad's only failure was that he had never had a son, but no matter. The Sinclair daughters were sunburned and blessed. Tall, Cat's nephew to play with Johnny. This is Cat Patel. Granddad reached out and patted Cat's hand. Hello, young man. Hello. His father passed on just this year, explained Carrie. He and Johnny are the best of friends. It's a big help to Ed's sister if we take him for a few weeks, and Cat, you have to go to cookouts and swimming, like we talked about, okay? But Cat didn't answer. He was looking at me. His nose was dramatic, his mouth sweet, skin deep brown, hair black and waving, body wired with energy. Cat seemed spring-loaded, like he was searching for something. He was contemplation and enthusiasm, ambition and strong coffee. I could have looked at him forever. Our eyes locked. I turned and ran away. Cat followed. I could hear his feet behind me on the wooden walkways that crossed the island. I kept running. He kept following. Johnny chased Cat, and Mirren chased Johnny. The adults remained talking on the dock, circling politely around Ed, going over Baby Will. The littles did whatever littles do. We four stopped running at the tiny beach down by the Cutoffs town. It's a small stretch of sand with high rocks on either side. No one used it much back then. The big beach had softer sand and less seaweed. Mirren took off her shoes and the rest of us followed. We tossed stones into the water. We just existed. I wrote out our names in the sand. Cadence, Mirren, Johnny, and Cat. Cat, Johnny, Mirren, and Cadence. That was the beginning of us. Oops, I can't get the next page. There we go. Johnny begged to have Cat stay longer. He got what he wanted. The next year he begged to have him come for the entire summer. Cat came. Johnny was the first grandson. My grandparents almost never said no to Johnny. Five. Summer 14, Cat and I took out the small motorboat alone. It was just after breakfast. Bess made Mirren play tennis with the twins in Taft. Johnny had started running that year and was doing loops around the perimeter path. Cat found me in Claremont Kitchen and asked, did I want to take the boat out? Not really. I wanted to go back to bed with a book. Please, Cat said. Cat almost never said a please. Take it out yourself. I can't borrow it, he said. I don't feel right. Of course you can borrow it. Not without one of you. He was being ridiculous. Where do you want to go? I asked. I just want to get off island. Sometimes I can't stand it here. I couldn't imagine then what it is he couldn't stand, but I said all right. We motored out to sea in wind jackets and bathing suits. After a bit, Cat cut the engine. We sat eating pistachios and breathing salt air. The sunlight shone on the water. Let's go in, I said. Cat jumped and I followed, but the water was so much colder than off the beach, it snatched our breaths. The sun went behind a cloud. We laughed panicky laughs and shouted that it was the stupidest idea to get in the water. What had we been thinking? There were sharks off the coast. Everybody knew that. Don't talk about sharks, God. We scrambled and pushed each other, struggling to be the first one up the ladder at the back of the boat. After a minute, Cat leaned back and let me go up first. Not because you're a girl, but because I'm a good person, he told me. Thanks. I stuck out my tongue. But when a shark bites my leg off, promised to write a speech about how awesome I was. Done, I said. Catwick Matthew Patil made a delicious meal. It seemed hysterically funny to be so cold. We didn't have towels. We He'd search me out when I was lying on the Windermere lawn with the Goldens. We started walking together on the path that circles the island, Cat in front and me behind. We'd talk about books or invent imaginary words. Sometimes we'd end up walking several times around the edge before we got hungry or bored. Peach roses lined the path, deep into pink. Their smell was faint and sweet. One day I looked at Cat lying in the Claremont hammock with a book, and he seemed, well, like he was mine. Some don't have work. Some don't have food. Stop talking now, said Mirren. Stop talking forever, said Johnny. We have a warped view of humanity on Beechwood, Kat said. I don't think you see that. Shut up, I said. I'll give you more chocolate if you shut up. And Kat did shut up, but his face contorted. He stood abruptly, picked up a rock from the sand, and threw it with all his force. He pulled off his sweatshirt and kicked off his shoes. Then he went into the sea in his jeans. Angry, I watched the muscles of his shoulder in the moonlight, the spray kicking up as he splashed in. He dove, and I thought, if I don't follow him now, that girl Raquel's got him. If I don't follow him now, he'll go away. From the liars, from the island, from my family, from me. I threw off my sweater and followed Kat into the sea in my dress. I crashed into the water, swimming out to where he lay on his back. His wet hair was slicked off his face, showing the thin scar through one eyebrow. I reached for his arm. Kat, he startled, stood in the waist-high sea. I'm sorry, I whispered. I don't tell you to shut up, Catty. I don't ever say that to you. I know. He was silent. Please don't shut up, I said. I felt his eyes go over my body and my wet dress. I talk too much, he said. I politicize everything. I like it when you talk, I said, because it was true. When I stopped to listen, I did like it. Is that everything that makes me? He paused. Things are messed up in the world, that's all. Yeah, maybe I should. Kat took my hands, turned them over to look at the words written on the backs. I should live for today and not be agitating all the time. My hand was in his wet hand. I shivered. His arms were bare and wet. We used to hold hands all the time, but he hadn't touched me all summer. It's good that you don't look at the world. It's good that you look at the world the way you do, I told him. Kat let go of me and leaned back into the water. Johnny wants me to shut up. I'm boring you and Mirren. I looked at his profile. He wasn't just Kat. He was contemplation and enthusiasm, ambition and strong coffee. All that was there in the lids of his brown eyes, his smooth skin, his lowered lip pushed out. There was coiled energy inside. I'll tell you a secret, I said. What? I reached out and touched his arm again. He didn't pull away. When we say shut up, Kat, that isn't what we mean at all. No. What we mean is we love you. You remind us that we're selfish bastards. You're not one of us that way. He dropped his eyes, smiled. Is that what you mean, Catty? Yes, I told him. I let my fingers trail down his floating outstretched arm. I can't believe that you are in the water. Johnny was standing ankle deep in the ocean, his jeans rolled up. It's the Arctic. My toes are freezing off. It's nice once you get in, Kat called back. Seriously, don't be weak, yelled Kat. Be manly and get in the stupid water. Johnny laughed and charged in. Mirren followed. And it was exquisite. The night looming above us, the hum of the ocean, the bark of gulls. So that is all for today, Please let me know if you like this video. Please let me know if you like this video so I know if I should do more in the future. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And whatever time it is for you, whether it is morning, afternoon, or evening, I hope it's going well. And if it is not, I hope it gets better soon.